Namaste everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Today is day 16 of the 90-day hard challenge for anthropology. Let's get started. The topic for today is 2.2 society. If you look at the syllabus, we have 5 different parts under this topic. The concept of society, society and culture, social institutions, social groups, social stratification. Now, as I said in the last video also, do prepare each of these syllabus points in depth. So try to prepare a 20 marker for each of them and the content for that should suffice. Right? Now, if you look at the PYQs, you will see that social stratification is a very favorite topic of UPSC. Further, status and role is another important topic. And then other part would be linking society and culture or with some other topic under socio-cultural anthropology like marriage, which is why the conceptual clarity is also very important. Now, on to the topic. All right. So we start with the definition itself. As I said in the last video, also one definition for any topic under socio-cultural anthropology is not sufficient. Hence, at least दो definition आप याद रखें. For society, I personally remembered one from McGee and the other from Ginsberg. You can either search it online or you can also use Akshar Jain sir's book. The definition is given there. So at least two definitions you should remember. Now, the first thing that we have is the development of society as a topic. If you have studied development of anthropology, you would know that the British and American school developed independently at first and then they merged together. So in Britain, there was the development of social anthropology, while in America, there was the development of cultural anthropology. So the British school is primarily responsible for the society part. Further, we have comments from several different theories like that of classical evolutionists and functionalists. So do try to link it with the theories that you have already studied and that will really help you reduce your load. Now, moving on, we have some characteristics of society. As with characteristics of culture, do try to remember one or two anthropologists' name for the characteristics, and the other would be very simple like cooperation, interdependence, etc. If you can make those in form of such a diagram, that would be very useful. Further, this diagram is of the characteristics of Indian society, which means if a question in paper 2 is asked linking 2.2, that is society, with Indian anthropology or Indian culture, this is something which you can use. Such questions are mostly open ended but do require some important points like, say, caste system, joint family, etc. And as far as conclusion is concerned, you can see some of the ready made conclusions that this material has. This is nothing out of the world, but it does sum up the concept that we have. So, such a conclusion can definitely be used. Next, we have the comparison between society and culture, which was also the part B of this 2.2. Now, under this comparison, we basically have three schools: whether culture is greater than society, society is greater than culture, or culture is something different from society. So, these are the three schools, and we have different anthropologists for each of them. Do prepare this topic on your own, and this is very important. Next up, we have social institutions. Now, all these three topics, that is social institutions, social groups, and social stratification, are very, very important. And the importance comes from their similarity in names because students do tend to get confused between these three. But try to have a lot of conceptual clarity between these three, even though the concepts are very, very simple. As far as definition is concerned, from such a topic like social institutions, multiple questions बहुत rare है आना. Hence, you can make do with just one definition. So you can use either McIver's definition or say Clifford Geertz definition, your wish. Then do look very carefully about the structure of the content given. We have the importance, characteristics, different types of social institutions, the functions they serve, maybe some diagram which you can add, and also the comments given by different anthropologists. So as you can see, even for one simple question, say this comes for 15 marker or even 10 marker, if you can write four or five of these sub dimensions in that question, it is very hard for the examiner to give you anything less than 50 to 60% marks. And this is exactly the structural approach that you should use in answer writing. Further, if you can see, In a lot of these socio-cultural anthropology concepts, we will have the functionalist as well as the structural functionalist view. Now, if you remember from the theories, functionalists said that any social phenomena exist to satisfy needs of individuals or humans, whereas structural functionalists said that any social phenomena or institution exists to maintain continuity and unity of society. If you just remember these two lines, this basically can be written for any of the socio-cultural anthropology concepts. So try to remember and form such kind of points which you can use across multiple concepts, and this will reduce your load. All right, moving on. Next up, we have is social groups. Again, as I said, one definition for this would be enough, and you can use either of these. My personal recommendation would be to use one anthropologist, say MacIver's definition across all of them. This would also reduce the burden of remembering the name of the anthropologist, but also, since it is the thought of one anthropologist, you can also see the difference or the dichotomy between these concepts, and that would really help you understand the concept. Next up, as with social institutions, we have the characteristics, the different types, and some value addition material here. Now, these points about the differences between primary and secondary groups, this again can be asked as even a 10 marker question any day. So, do prepare this. And now, if you see this table here, this is exactly what the toppers every year say, preparing a structure for the questions. Now, consider if this 10 marker question comes and you do not remember all these points, but if you just remember these dimensions on which you have to answer. So let's say from primary group and secondary group, first you think what is the size of such groups. Then you can fill this point automatically. Similarly, when you start thinking about what kind of relationships are there, this you can automatically fill. And so on for what kind of communication is there, for how long these groups are made, how strong is the bonding or cohesion between them, who takes the decisions, and finally, what is the social structure inside such groups. So if you remember all these dimensions, then writing the entire answer is a piece of cake, and hence using structures is what is recommended by a lot of toppers. So you can try to include this even in your preparation so that by the time you come to answer writing or the exam, this is inbuilt into your system. And then just using a basic conclusion would be enough in such questions. Finally, we have social stratification, which is a very favorite topic of UPSC. And पिछले कुछ सालों से इस पे सवाल नहीं पूछा गया है as far as I know. So in the next 1 or 2 years, a question from this topic is highly likely. Again, one definition would be enough. Prepare its characteristics, what is the basis of stratification, as well as some diagram like this you can make. Now, this diagram, if you see, this is that of the Indian social structure of Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudras. As you would know, this can also be used in paper too, and also link this concept of social stratification with, say, social hierarchy, as we can see in the Indian caste system in paper 2. So do not hesitate to interlink even the concepts between paper 1 and paper 2. The examiner will only appreciate it. Now, one point of addition I would like to make in this answer or in this material given is that the basis of stratification here is only given on the base of caste, class, and estate. Apart from this, stratification can also be biological, say on the basis of age or gender. So we can have biological stratification, caste or social stratification, economic or class stratification, and political or estate stratification. So do remember all these four types, and it would help bring a lot of different dimensions in your answer. Then we have the concept of status and role. This is again a very important concept from this topic. It was given by Ralph Linton. Try to link it with what school this anthropologist belong to. So do write that in the comments below. So we have two types of both status and role, ascribed and achieved. Again, as I said above about the structure, if you just remember these points of differentiation for each of these status, you can automatically fill this table if you know the concept. So try to focus on such structures and it will reduce your load. An example is given here which will help you differentiate between ascribed and achieved status if you're reading it for the first time. Then a lot of different value addition is given here, including this, that is role expectations and role conflict. Try to include at least one of them whenever a question is asked about status and role, and this helps show your extra knowledge which you have acquired apart from all the other 90% of candidates, and this helps you in getting the top marks. And finally, if you can get a contemporary significance for any topic, do write it down towards the end. It is very much appreciated by the examiners. Once we are done with all the three topics, that is social groups, institutions, and stratification, we come to the topic of social structure. Now, this is mostly given by the structural functionalists like Radcliffe Brown, and we have even studied this in the theories. So, social structure consists of social institutions, status, and role, and it has connotations in social stratification as well. So, if you read this case study of Bathonga in Eastern Africa, this is actually a very good case study and very interesting as well. So, do read this. It would be very clear how this social structure is maintained by the use of different joking relationships between the mama and the bhatija, that is mother's brother and sister's son. Finally, we have some definitions of social groups, and then it is linked to something called as a reference group. Now, mind you, this is more important for paper 2, wherein we have the concept of Sanskritization given by M.N. Srinivas. But here itself also you can read about this concept of reference group. And as you can see here about this value addition, this upward mobilization and downward mobilization is what we read in depth more in paper 2 that will cover in the later months. And so these are the different theories or topics given by several anthropologists. Further, you can read more about Surjit Sinha, his case study of Bhumij of Barabhum, as well as M.N. Srinivas, who gave the concept of Sanskritization and dominant caste. And that sums up our topic. So, as a lot of you would also be feeling, the topics under socio-cultural anthropology are not actually very difficult. ये वही कॉन्सेप्ट हैं जो हम आसपास अपने सोसाइटी में देखते हैं, and hence इनको समझना काफी आसान होता है. And once you get conceptual clarity of these, writing a proper answer that can get you marks all depends on the type of structure that you use. So that is why I'm recommending, since day one, once you are even starting to read, try to organize this content in your mind in form of structures, and that will really help you towards the end. All right, that's it for this topic. See you all soon. Jai Hind.